Okay, so thanks for tuning in, everybody. Good to see you all again. And I'm really, really excited this morning because I have a guest on who I've known for a little while now, and I've often referred to her, as many, many people do, as the chatbot chick. Her real name's Elly Hurley, but she's much, much more than that. But first of all, welcome along, Elly.
Thanks so much, James. I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation with you today.
Cool. So, tell us a little bit about your background first so people help get an understanding of the context of what I just said in terms of the chatbot chick thing.
Yeah, sure, no problems. Well, in November 2018, Messenger chatbots came out. And prior to that, I'd been doing a lot of online marketing consultancy and a little bit of agency work where I was doing done-for-you services for other businesses. Mm-hmm. And you know what it's like when you're in a niche that's as wide as that. It was quite difficult to cut through sometimes. When chatbots came out, I saw it as a huge opportunity, well, for two reasons, really. I love conversation, and I loved the fact that what chatbots did is actually automated almost a personal conversation for businesses. So I pivoted pretty quickly back then, and it's a word that people are hearing an awful lot again at the moment. So I guess it's been a case of that became my punch through. But I'm still doing business strategy and helping people build, nurture, and convert people using conversation. Now, it could be one-to-one conversation, or it could be automation using software that's available to people. And that's kind of where I said I have a really good understanding of a lot of the software tools out there, mm-hmm. but I also have, I guess, sort of an understanding of human behavior with my NLP training. So the combination of the two actually just works beautifully.
Okay, fantastic. So that's really interesting because many people, and you're right, you know, that word pivot is kind of left, right, and center at the moment. And I think it's coming from a couple of different angles. There are businesses who are pivoting, who are re-engineering and moving into something that they weren't necessarily a few weeks ago. But also from a career perspective, there's a whole bunch of people now thinking about, well, maybe they don't even have a career right now. They've been stood down or they've been let go. And there's probably even a bunch of people where this point in time is causing us all to reflect. And they're thinking, is this actually what I want to do going forward? So in terms of you making that change and learning the whole chatbot software thing, I mean, what did that involve in terms of your own learning curve?
Oh, look, it was huge in many ways, James. I've always had a reasonable understanding of how to put stuff together, but it's more from a what you see is what you get point of view. I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer. And in all honesty, I have no, I guess, desire in my 50s to go back and sort of learn that sort of stuff. Maybe if I was in my sort of teens, it would definitely be where I'd go down. Mm-hmm. But what I did have to do is learn a little bit of that stuff. But more importantly, it was a case of learning how to get people to actually do things in short bursts. So this is like, I guess I liken it to, you know, how do you eat an elephant? It's a stupid analogy, but, you know, one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And it's very much like conversations that you have with chatbots. It's just drip feeding. It's just a little breadcrumb. And it just gets people, I guess, more engaged quickly. And it doesn't matter if they're pushing sort of a positive or a negative button, they're still interacting with you, which is them still actually saying, yes, they want the conversation to continue. So it was really a case of learning how to make the software, I guess, sing, so that it was talking to that person in a way that they wanted to have that conversation. Because there's some pretty awful chatbots out there, to be honest.
Right. Okay. So, but again, though, in terms of making the decision to head down in that direction, you've come from what we might describe as mainstream marketing.
Yep.
Yeah. And now you're going to go down this new, somewhat technologically augmented direction.
Yes.
Was it a lightning flash, a blindingly obvious thing that you said, yeah, I'm going to do that? Or did you have to talk yourself into it? Did you have to convince yourself?
No, I had to talk myself into it. So I first heard about it in the November 2018. It wasn't until March 2019 that I actually pulled the trigger and gave it a go myself.
Right.
And that was for a couple of reasons. I'm not sure if you remember a platform called Periscope that came out in 2018.
No.
It was small video, sort of pre-Snapchat. See, the fact that you don't know what it is actually explains how badly they did it. But that was one of those shiny objects. And I did jump onto that to begin with. And I I don't know, just got a sense really quickly that it wasn't the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
So when chatbots came out, I was slightly nervous. I think you get a little bit gun shy sometimes because you know what it's like, all these shiny objects continually keep appearing in front of us and we sort of tend to jump from one thing to another at times.
Yeah.
Where I saw ManyChat as different was that it was a tool that was going to give me the ability to allow people to have conversations with people that actually were going to be read. Like the open rates and click-through rates and the eyeballs that actually are reading messenger messages are still sitting up 80+%.
Wow.
So if you compare that to email, which is sort of somewhere around 15, 20% if you're lucky, it makes a huge difference. So I guess I kind of saw it as that vehicle to take people from, hey, I've got a really great thing, but I just don't know how to get it in front of people.
Right.
And that's where ManyChat's filled a really big gap for like our business and lots of clients' businesses.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I'm going to stick with this theme for a moment, only because I think there'll be a bunch of people potentially who are watching and or listening to this who at the moment are thinking, what might I do? And as they begin to, imagine that, sometimes what happens is that the little fear monkey says, don't be stupid, you couldn't do that.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you go about the learning?
I guess I did the same thing that most people did, jumped in and sort of just started playing with it. It's one of those things that is not front facing. So you can go in there and if you can create a flow or if you can create an Excel spreadsheet, anything like that, then you will be able to do this. It's a really straightforward software to use from that point of view. In many ways, the hardest part is coming up with the conversation to continue that flowing and speaking in ways that you're asking questions rather than speaking at people all the time. So
right.
It's the type of software that, look, anybody, you can start with a free account with ManyChat, who are one of probably at the forefront of chatbots for Messenger, Facebook Messenger I'm talking about.
Yep.
And what they've actually done is taken on a sort of an omnipresence approach to communication. They've now added email and SMS as different channels that you can actually communicate with people through one software. So it's pretty exciting from that perspective.
Wow. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. All right. So let's come out of that in terms of a career transition conversation and let's talk about this whole kind of move to digital now and that front end of the sales journey. And again, I think that's been absolutely exacerbated in the last few weeks. Somebody shared with me recently, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, the interaction on LinkedIn, as one of the social platforms for business people, had jumped by 60%.
Wow.
I know a couple of weeks ago when I was trying to upload a native video that was only 2.5 minutes long, the system crashed after failing to load it at about 50 minutes.
Yes.
Right? So this move to online, because of the situation we're all forced into at the moment, obviously is very, very real and very large. Do you think this is the real beginning of moving to selling online?
Yeah, look, I think it is, James. It's been something that's been available to people for many years now. And like anything, there's the early adopters that did it and have done really well with it. What's happening now is that people are finally starting to realize that they can't just rely on word of mouth, or they can't rely just on referrals. Unfortunately, the poor shop owners that have been shut down because they're not considered something that has to be open at the moment.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that I feel really sorry for, the restaurateurs, the pizza shop, places like that. Yep. We've got a local pizza shop here, and he said his business is halved. So he's still open for takeaway, but he's not getting the eat-in, and that really hurts people. So I think what this is doing is it's making people realize that, hey, this online thing actually is serious. It has been around for a long time. Lots and lots of people have tested everything. So there's proven systems out there now.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, let's look at this as an opportunity to actually transition into, so that when we do finally come out of lockdown, you've got the opportunity to run that alongside your current offering.
Okay. So can you give us some examples of the different applications of this? I would confess, and you already know this because you and I've had this conversation, I haven't moved into that world yet, right?
Yes.
And I consider myself to be fairly comfortable with online and digital and all that kind of thing, but the whole
Yep.
chat thing is not something I've gone into yet.
Yep.
What are the various applications?
Okay, so I'll use an example of a client that I've been working with that has a breathwork program. So they've just recently run an 8-day breathwork campaign through a private Facebook group. They started with 0 people in this group on I think it was about the 22nd of March last year.
Mm-hmm.
We've just completed the 8 days, and they've ended up with just under 5,500 people that have gone through that, or in that actual course itself, and gone through each of the 8 breathworks.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've done to, I guess, keep people moving and keep people interested is we've incorporated the chatbot, whereby we send reminders out an hour before and at the time of the live breath work, because if people are on live, it's so much more powerful for them. And then we've sent out the replay the next morning. So, and there was about just under 1,000 people. I think it's 997 people that actually opted in to the chatbot for those reminders as well. So on the back end of this, what these two have done is offered a $44 course, which is a 2.5-hour deep dive into one specific breath work that they're running this Thursday. And the take-up rate, because of, I guess, almost there was just this, like, it wasn't manic, but there was just so much motivation and momentum in their group, and the encouragement through both the chatbot and through the group as 2 points of contact with people just worked really well. So that's one way it can be used. So you're reminding people of when you've got a live coming up. So people that are doing Pilates or gyms, or, you know, even pizza places, if they've got a special on tomorrow. You know, tomorrow's our special on our traditional pizzas, get 20% off if you order through the bot, and we'll add you to our birthday draw. So that's one way to do it. Another way, which is really critical at the moment, is people need a sense of community. One of the things I've found more than anything is that people are really fearful and are scared. The uncertainty is driving people sort of nearly nuts.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've found we've been able to do is sort of use the chatbot in a very empathetic and supportive way, where we're kind of there holding somebody's hand and just guiding them along. People are looking for people to become their leaders, to become their guides. And a chatbot is also a really, really solid way to be able to do that. And I guess just on your stats, Messenger has had a 50% increase in usage since COVID-19 as well. So it's a little bit like LinkedIn. I think social across the board has just skyrocketed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's the primary way in which we're still allowed to communicate with each other, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't visit each other at the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
So this whole chatbot thing, then, just from a functionality technical perspective, just educate me here. Are we talking about a level of AI involved in this, or is it just, I mean, how intelligent is the chatbot space?
Yeah. Okay, the chatbot that I'm talking about with ManyChat, no, definitely not AI. It's not artificial intelligence. It doesn't learn. What it is, it's programmable. So it's natural language processing. You program it based on either the last action somebody took. So you might give them a question, you know, what's your favorite color shirt? Red, yellow, blue. They choose one of those options. You automatically can put them in a bucket and segment them. So next time, you will use a yellow shirt in your ad, or you will use a yellow shirt when you're actually communicating with them. And so, or you can use it on keywords. So if someone types something in where they're asking a question, you can then trigger a response that will go back to them based on something that they have asked you. So you're preempting the conversation that you're having with customers. And that's why knowing your customers intimately, or as intimately as possible, is critical in the setup of the chatbot. And this is where I see most people go wrong with chatbots. They second guess, or they don't really understand their clients that well. So when they are creating these keywords or the conversations, they're actually not having that conversation with one person. They're trying to sort of do the, you know, the scattergun approach and talk to multiple people.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you've got a background in NLP as well, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
How much of that is at play now in this?
Do you know, it's really funny. I think about it, and it's almost gone full circle. It's a huge amount, James. You know, copy is everything. Communication is everything. The way we speak to people. You know, different people react differently to different word types or different things at different times of the day as well. So if we're not listening to how people are sort of feeding information back to us, or we're not hearing the types of words that they're saying, we may end up completely out of rapport with them when all we had to do was sort of just take that step back, think about how they spoke to us, and then feed that back to them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I'm sort of, I guess I'm talking about people's primary representational system. So, you know, does someone see something better and then they're able to actually take action on that? Or is someone auditory? So is it sound, or is it something that they hear that's going to prompt them to do something?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it sounds to me as though if somebody's going to go down this road and engage with that whole method of communicating with either prospects or with current customers and clients,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound as though it's something they can really do by themselves if they're going to do it properly.
I think it's probably something they're going to want to brainstorm with somebody else, or it's something that they're going to want to make sure that they have a solid strategy in place.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything, if you build a house on foundations that are weak or crumbling, the house is never going to stand up.
Right.
So they need to have those foundations built. And I know, you know, a lot of people sort of get sick of hearing, you know, who's your avatar, who's the ideal client, what sort of things is it that they listen to, see, hear, do, feel.
Yep.
But this stuff is critical. And even more so, I think, at the moment, because people are at a point now where there's just information overload. Every man and his dog is putting courses out. Every man and his dog has got free offerings out there.
Yep.
Like, where the hell does someone start?
Right.
And I think that's where, if you can offer to hold their hand and actually guide them through, so you're there with them and holding them accountable, giving them that kick up the butt that they need, being the air that they haven't got, and helping them sort of, I guess, traverse through what is pretty rocky ground for some people, then I think it's going to be a better outcome for everyone. So could they do it themselves? Yeah, they could. Would it be better if they had some help? 100%.
Okay. All right. And so over the last few weeks, what have you seen in terms of engagement or not with, you know, this way of communicating?
Oh, look, I've found that it's across the board. I've got a couple of clients that are in sort of the travel space, or in the, what do you call it? A destination place. So theirs has sort of just dropped off completely,
Yeah.
unfortunately, from them. I've got other clients who are really making some really solid inroads. One of the things that I have found people are needing at the moment is a hell of a lot more touch points and a lot more steps in between, because people are holding on to what they have. People have no idea how long this is going to be. So it's a lot more difficult to get people to part with, you know, a certain amount of money. What used to be an impulse buy at, say, $100 could now be $10 for a lot of people. And I think it's where, you know, I guess as business owners and people offering services for this sort of thing, need to be really mindful of the people that we are talking to. And, you know, like I've helped a lot of our clients out. I've had conversations with every single one of them, people that I've worked with previously that I'm no longer working with, just to find out if there's anything that I can do to help them out and move them along.
Okay, cool. Very good. And how about your own business? What are you doing? How have you slightly adjusted yourself in the last few weeks?
I think I've probably moved away from just advertising or just talking about the fact that I'm sort of Chatbot's messenger, ManyChat, from an agency perspective.
Yep.
I have been doing a lot more consulting again, which I love.
Yep.
I love to educate. I love teaching. And so consulting kind of falls into that as well. And one of the other things that I found is sort of moving more into the overall communication space. So I'm doing quite a lot with emails now. You know, are people sort of, everybody's got a list. It might only be 10 people on the list, or could be 10,000. But, you know, when was the last time you actually sent out a really meaningful email to them and got something back from them? So It's about looking at the current assets that you have in the company, and what communication tool can you actually use to be able to get through to these people that, hey, you are still around, this is what you're offering at the moment, and this is how I can help you. So it's looking at the whole customer journey, identifying any gaps that there are, any friction points, and looking at how you can plug that with whatever tool it might be. So if it's Messenger, it's Messenger. If it's email, it's email. If it's a phone call, it's a phone call. You know, pick the phone up and actually speak to somebody.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. It's interesting, and obviously, my recruitment business, as you know, I've shared with you previously, is very much ground to a halt at the moment. You know, as somebody who specialises in helping small business owners recruit their first sales professional, you know, that's kind of understandable. And as I've had increasingly more conversations with people about that also being their reality, you know, one of the things that I've certainly been at pains to be saying to them and advising them is, rather than trying to create new revenue streams, make sure that you're actually shoring up the ones that you have got.
Yeah.
And if you think you've done enough communication, send one more communication, because you probably haven't, right?
Yeah, and I think that was kind of, it was funny, I was actually out walking this morning with my dog, James, and it was a realization I came to, you know, as a consultant or as an agency, and I think you can put sort of virtual assistants into this bucket, you can put freelancers into this bucket. You know, we all spend a huge amount of time building other people's businesses and growing their businesses for them. And when we're making hay, we don't necessarily think about what we should be doing to continue sort of that brand awareness and ticking over of our own businesses, so people are aware of what we do. And it was sort of like dang, it's time I actually started doing some of the stuff for my business that I've been doing for these other businesses for the last sort of, you know, 2-3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. My one note of caution to anybody who's watching and listening to this is, can I please suggest that we now cease and desist with a communication that starts with "in these difficult times."
Oh, yes.
I get another "in these difficult times" email, I think I'm going to vomit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
There's definitely things, and I think even you know, the COVID code, or it's like, this is the new normal, guys. This is what we've got to work with, and we're going to head towards something that's we're never going to have the same as what we had before this happened. So you take it as an opportunity to, I guess, reassess either at a personal level or a business level, and then look at what tools you need to be able to put into place what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So now really is a time, I think, for all of us, particularly in small business, to be thinking about, what do I now need to learn?
Yes.
Because that world has changed. Yeah. The one we were in 4 weeks ago, I doubt very much that we're going to return to it. And that's not because things will have been dismantled or broken, but I think there's just a new awareness, right? There's a new awakening of, wow, it is actually possible to, you know, have a conversation like this. I mean, you and I are hundreds of kilometers away from each other. You know, we're having this conversation. There's no lag in it. Why can't we continue having more of these instead of having to, you know, fly people into meetings and all that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to, I think, well, you know, the environment's already thanking us for the fact that you can actually see the Himalayas for the first time in God knows how many years. I can't remember that stat, but you know, they haven't been visible from India forever. Right. And now all of a sudden, because there's not so much CO2 or pollution in the world, and guess what? Cows are still eating grass and pooping, so it can't just be them causing the issues.
Right.
I think it's, whilst it's as scary as hell, and I have high days, low days, and everything in between, there's also a certain amount of excitement and, I guess, you know, new beginnings on a horizon there that could actually be, there's a lot of silver lining, I think. I think there's lots out there that we can be doing and that will benefit us as individuals and human beings.
Absolutely right. And I think if one of the things we really home in on is learning to be better communicators, you know, whether it is in this fashion or in the space in which you operate, and that is through the written style of communication, then that's going to be really, really useful and really, really beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. And I feel that I've actually had better conversations with people since lockdown's begun, because I've been forced into closed rooms like this and you and I having this conversation. Whereas, if we were in I guess, a public setting, there would be distractions. And as humans, we're flitty. It's really difficult to keep people's attention. So I think there's a key learning there as well. It doesn't matter if it's your kids that you're trying to get to do the homework as part of the homeschooling, or if it's an acquaintance that, like a business acquaintance that you want to take to that next level in business. If you can sort of work out the best way to push those buttons and to get them to take that next little step, you're not taking them from sort of, hey, I don't really know you all that well, but maybe we could get married and have kids. Let's have a coffee first, or let's have a beer on Zoom, or let's do whatever it is that we need to do to see if there is some sort of synergy there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. It's been great having a chat with you. Thank you. I've really, really appreciated it. To anybody else, if you're at a point where you're considering improving your overall communications with your clients, or particularly, and not that Elly wants to be pushed into this corner necessarily, but if you're thinking about engaging with the whole chatbot thing on Facebook Messenger, then I really can't commend Elly Hurley from Nudge Marketing to you any higher. So reach out to Elly. She'll happily have a chat with you. I know that, and guide you, and things will go wherever they go based on those conversations.
Yeah, look, no, that's wonderful, James. And honestly, I love having the, I guess, tag of being the chatbot chick, because, it kind of was for me a defining moment, and it is something that I'm really passionate about. It's communication at its best. So I'm happy to have those conversations.
Ah, beautiful. Fantastic.